If y'all saying can't nobody keep the commandments, why we could go through the Bible and see multiple people keeping the commandments?
Well, here we go. Go back and watch that whole video. I couldn't find the original video. However, so Abraham, they say, they narrated that Abraham kept God's commandments. So we gonna bypass the fact that Abraham lied and said Sarah was his sister. We're not gonna touch that subject. Okay, that's all I got.
You see, it's really strange to me how, you'll have some Christians that never read the Bible, you know, and they'll pull scriptures out of the Old Testament. They'll go to Abraham to prove that Abraham didn't keep the commandments. You see, they'll go when Paul says, be married to one wife. They'll go to the Old Testament and say, well, King David had multiple wives. A Christian will always pull a scripture from somewhere to keep from having to keep commandments. But, they say you can't keep all the commandments, but they'll keep Christmas. They'll keep Halloween, Thanksgiving. They won't miss one of them. They won't miss a day. They won't miss one holiday. You see, they won't miss one birthday. But they say you can't keep none of God's high holy days. You see, we can't keep God's laws perfect. You see, but we'll keep all of the white man's holidays. We'll keep all of the white man's traditions without fail. You see, we'll keep it. You see, if the white man say put on a mask, we'll go to bed with the mask on. We'll be in the car, going from point A to point B by ourselves. No one else in the car. But the mask is on. You see, we'll obey every law and statute the white man has, and without fail. You see, the white man's law book, he has way more laws, like 20 some thousand laws on the books. But we can't keep God's laws. We can't keep 600 of them, even though half of those laws pertain to women. The other half pertain to men. So we're not really keeping 613 something laws. Some of those laws were for the temple, how to serve in the temple, you see. But we can't keep a beard on our face. We can't stop defiling ourselves, eating defiled foods. We can't do none of these commandments, you see. But let's get a scripture real quick, because she said Abraham, he lied. Let's look at it. All right, we're in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, and let's read verse 16. It says, be not righteous over much. Be not righteous over much. Meaning, don't be overly righteous. You see, you can tell a lie in certain situations. You see, Most High is not going to fault you. It's common sense. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Why would Abraham destroy himself when he can use a little wisdom? You see, look at verse 17. It says, be not overmuch wicked neither. See? Be not overmuch wicked, neither be thou foolish. Don't be a fool. You see, Abraham was not a fool in that situation where he had to lie and say that, you know, this woman is my sister. You know, they were going to put him to death. Why shouldest thou die before thy time? See? If God has a mission for you, why would you die before you accomplish that mission? It is good that thou shouldest take hold of this. Yea, also from this withdraw not thine hand. For he that feareth God shall come forth of them all. Look, wisdom strengthened the wise. Abraham used wisdom. Wisdom strengthened the wise more than 10 mighty men which are in the city. For there is not a just man upon the earth that doeth good and sinneth not. See, they say, well, we can't keep the commandments because Abraham, he sinned. But God said there is not a just man upon the earth that doeth good, that keeps the commandments and sin not. So remember when Joshua sent spies, to spy out the city, and they were looking for these spies, and the woman hid she hid the spies. And they asked her straight up, say, hey, where are these men at? And she lied, right? You see, that's wisdom. You see, if she had not told a lie, if she had not used wisdom, then that army, the spies would have been caught. You see, let's use another example. What if you're undercover, detective? You're scoping out this child trafficking ring, and they ask you, say, hey, are you a cop? Are you a police? You have to tell us. Y'all seen these movies where, you're undercover. Are you gonna be honest? Are you gonna tell them the truth and blow your cover? No, you're not gonna blow your cover. You have to use wisdom. God allows his righteous people to use wisdom, in certain situations. But it doesn't give us an excuse to say, well, we don't have to keep any commandments because Abraham, he told a lie that one instance. That's foolish. That's just an excuse. That's what it is. It's an excuse so that you Christians don't have to keep any commandments. But I find it very funny how a Christian, they can pull scriptures from the Old Testament to prove their point, but they'll never go to where it says, do not remove or add to this book of the law. You see, if the commandments are written in the Old Testament, then guess what? We have to keep them in the New Testament. Paul, Christ, all the apostles were keeping Sabbaths. They were keeping dietary laws. Shalom.